Shonen anime is arguably the most popular anime genre of all time. From buff dudes screaming like they're constipated, to teenagers killing each other because their parents are either super dead or don't give a horse crap. And out of all of these shonen anime, there are a few that gave me a quite unique experience like Magi. And unique it was. Magi starts with a guy named Alibaba who's been bootlicking other people to get by, which is not a good first impression for a main character, meeting by chance with a kid named Aladdin. Turns out that these two have the same destination but different goals. Alibaba wants money and power, and Aladdin wants to obtain metal vessels, which can be found in the same dungeon. While doing this, they encountered a slave girl named Morgiana, who belongs to a tribe of tremendously physically strong people called the Finalists, which has a very high demand in the slave market, who also turns out to be owned by the schmuck who also wants to conquer the same dungeon. And it was revealed that Aladdin is what they consider a Magi. A Magi is a special being that has the purpose of guiding the world for the better by choosing a king fitting to rule them all. And one of the requirements is to be able to conquer a dungeon guarded by what we call a Jinn. That's Genie for the Disney fans. A Jinn will grant the conqueror great wealth and powers by having their own metal vessel where the Jinn will reside, which can be any object, doesn't need to be a lamp. After clearing the dungeon together and setting Morgiana free, this is where their journey begins as they travel around the world to fulfill their dreams and find their purposes in life. The Magi anime adaptation has 2 seasons and a spin-off, Magi the Labyrinth of Magic, Magi the Kingdom of Magic, which is the season 2, and Magi the Adventures of Sinbad, but let's focus on these ones. And if I could summarize the entirety of Magi in one word, I think Magi is an odyssey. When we describe the word odyssey, it's grand, exciting, wonderful, and of course, unpredictable. The first few episodes can be as cheesy as it gets, with its constant blurting on shit about adventures, meeting new friends and family they got. But their journey became more difficult when things like politics, conflict, conspiracies, morality and fate joined the conversation. There will be moments where they will question their morals and their philosophies. For example, the plot of Magi is centered towards fate, and this show gives us a gray area perspective about it. Some shows only focus on either accepting or defying your destiny, but Magi questions everything about fate. What is fate? Should we really defy it or accept it? Is fate really a good thing or a bad thing? Am I sounding like a 14-year-old edgelord? And because of how volatile the situations were at the moment, it can be hard to tell who will be the bad guy or the good guy, or what will happen in the next arcs, especially when there's a lot of mysteries that are being discovered. These factors are also interconnected with each other into the plot structure of Magi. When I said that these characters are embarking on a journey, it doesn't mean that they're always doing it together. Half of the time, they went their separate ways on their own adventures, and each of them will face their own problems with either of these factors, but they're all weaved perfectly by the strings of fate that will bring them all together as they fight their biggest adversary that is hiding in plain sight. And speaking of fighting, the battle system of Magi is not what I could say complicated and detailed, but it can be gimmicky, but not in a level of a Togashi work. When someone obtains a Jinn from a metal vessel, you can gain elemental powers depending on the Jinn you have, and there are a lot of them. Even one of them is a tomboy, and based on my watch history, that's a major win for me. You can capture more than 1 Jinns, and appoint someone that can also obtain a fraction of the power of your Jinns on their household vessels. And then there are magicians who can also manifest elemental powers without a Jinn. All of their powers came from a source called Magoi, which is the equivalent of mana, that also came from Rook, the equivalent of life force in this series. And what Magi did with this kind of battle system, so they could spice up their anime battles, is to barely use it in an actual battle. Most of the fights by themselves, excluding the manga, can be pretty simplistic, with most of the highlights are Morgiana being a fucking badass. But when it does escalate, it can go from simple sword fighting to holy shit, what the fuck is this? I think the reason is that Magi may be a shonen series, but the battles are not the main focus. Magi focuses on things like character development, political drama, and its lore and its ever-expanding world, which is one of the best selling points of Magi, the setting. In case you haven't noticed the clothes and the magic carpets, Magi has a heavily inspired Middle Eastern or Indian setting instead of the typical Japanese or European setting, and this is what makes Magi unique. Not because it's actually unique, but for some reason, I haven't seen any anime with this setting, and if there are, let me know and say how much of a normie I am. The unique setting was refreshing the first time I watched Magi, and this includes the smaller things. With terms that sound Middle Eastern, words like Rook or Jinn, and with names like Alibaba, Sinbad, and of course Aladdin. Except it's the princess who will show you a world of pain if you decide to piss her off. But at the same time, there are also other settings, from ancient Asia to a Roman Empire setting. And with our main characters traveling country by country, it's one of the major factors that gives the adventurous feel to this series. The characters of Magi are not one-dimensional in a way. Alibaba is an insecure virgin who initially wanted to use Aladdin for his own benefits, and Aladdin is abusing his Shota privileges so he could grab some milkers, man boobs included. But they still have a good sense of justice when shit gets real. Alibaba deeply cares for his friends and for the oppressed, and Aladdin will try his best to solve everything in a pacifist way no matter what. Alibaba had a lot of self-conflicts, like his past, his blood, his loss of self-confidence and direction, that even led him temporarily to the dark side. But of course he overcame it and became a better person. Aladdin doesn't know who he is, and how crucial his role is as a Magi, but he will have to face his responsibility at a young naive age, while having to realize that everything is not black and white. Morgiana is not only the physically strongest out of the three, she's also the mentally strongest as well. Even while facing her problems, she helps her friends every time they're in trouble, and she faces it with full composure. But she also has an actual personality that developed throughout the story. God, I used to have a big crush on her. She went from a spiritually broken slave to a free individual who can finally smile with her friends and do whatever she wants. And unlike some other pink-haired shonen female character, she's not f***ing useless. The side characters can be entertaining or sometimes more compelling than the main characters. If you thought that Alibaba is automatically this overpowered MC, then you're dead f***ing wrong. That title goes to this guy. Sinbad is a very charismatic character. He always stole the show every time he appeared. Everything about him exudes power and charisma, from his voice, actions, and character design. He's so powerful that the only way to nerf him is to be dumb enough to get his weapon stolen. But Sinbad also displays a lot of depth through subtle dialogues and actions that can be either explored further by reading the manga or checking out the prequel spin-off series. The nature of the plot made the characters more than one-dimensional as well. Sometimes it only takes one crucial moment to completely change a character for the better or worse. There will be times where you'll find it difficult to choose which side you're supposed to be when they clash with each other. We may not agree on some of their actions, but they all have a reason that we can deeply understand and sympathize with. And it makes you question how will our characters adapt to these conflicts, or how long can they hold on to their beliefs while facing a very tremendous threat. So, Magi is all about adventure that has an immersive world, philosophical themes, and political drama. Its unique setting will grab your attention the moment you first see its anime opening, and the only downsides are having no season 3 and a rushed final arc of the manga. But this doesn't remove or nullify the magic that I have experienced with Magi. But you know what's a more magical experience? Watching my content. Like and comment. I don't know, that's it.